What's up, everybody? This is the Sports League Podcast, back for another week. I'm your host, Alex League. We got Amanda back on the show as always. And Amanda, some great football uh, on Christmas Day, Sunday, Saturday, and even Thursday. A lot of great games this week.
I know it's such a great weekend for football. I mean, 3 days straight, and then we had a good Thursday night game. It's definitely a great week for the NFL.
Yeah, Monday too. Monday's Christmas. Yeah, Sunday. So much good action. Let's start it off with Thursday. The 7-7 Saints at the 7-7 Rams. A big game. You kind of anticipated both teams bringing their A game, and that just simply wasn't the case as the Rams jump all over the Saints and we're up 30-7. Were you surprised by? I know you picked the Rams. I picked the Saints. Were you surprised by how dominant the Rams were in this game?
I didn't have a good feeling about the Saints going into this one. I was pretty confident the Rams would win. And for
Hmm.
most of the game, the Rams had it in the bag. I mean, and it was weird too, because in a game like that where one team seems so far ahead, you expect there to be a lot of turnovers. And
Yeah.
I mean, there was just that one turnover, which I kind of summoned with my witchcraft, as you call it. Um, Alex and I were texting during this game, and he goes, "Big field goal, keeps it 2 scores. Saints need a touchdown ASAP." And I said, "No, let's get an interception." And then the next pass was picked off. So it was kind of funny timing. But yeah, it was
Yeah.
a weird game for the Saints. I mean, Olave had a super off night. I've never seen him drop so many passes before.
Yeah, the Saints have been incredibly inconsistent all season long, and I kept trying to believe in them and kept trying to will them to take control of this division, and for whatever reason they can't get it done. I think it mostly points to the coaching staff. I'm not a big Dennis Allen fan, and I think they need a whole new staff over there. But it's you're seeing Chris Olave not playing his best football at times. You're seeing Derek Carr with some inconsistency and some turnovers and credit to the Rams. I wrote down here the game was not as close as the score indicates. Like it was 30-7 and it could have been 40-7. Um and then the Saints get back into it and it's a 30-22 final score, but it easily could have been a 30-point Rams win.
Yeah, I mean, the Rams were firing on all cylinders for most of this one. I mean, Matt Stafford looked great. 24 of 34 pass attempts, 328 yards, 2 touchdowns. And it's funny because you and I, by nature, being Bears and Packers fan, I mean, we are kind of programmed to hate on Matt Stafford, but he has quietly been a very productive quarterback. I mean, if you go back and look in 2012, Calvin Johnson set the NFL single season record with 1,964 receiving yards. Matt Stafford was throwing to him. 2021, Cooper Kupp, second most, 1,947, Matt Stafford again. And this year, Puka Nacua, who has been insane. I mean, he's my rookie of the year pick. I know CJ Stroud is right up there as well.
Hmm.
But Puka, I mean, 147 more yards in these next two games, and then he will have set the record for most um, by a rookie in NFL history. I mean, Matt Stafford is so good at like getting the ball, and he has his favorite receiver every year. Like it's not like he's spreading the ball around like some of these other receivers, but he's quietly really helping some receivers make historical numbers.
He is, and I mean, he's always been talented, right? And the biggest thing was consistency and protecting the football. And ever
Mhm.
since he's gone to the Rams and teamed up with Sean McVay, who's a much better offensive play caller, offensive system than he ever had in Detroit, you've seen Stafford really take off. And it really, we talk about this with Hugh Jackson and other people about how the situation matters so much to a quarterback. And you think about as much success as Stafford had in Detroit, he's now in a better system, and we're seeing it even more so with the Rams. And he is starting to spread the ball around this year more than any year.
Mhm.
Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, like you mentioned, and the addition of Demarcus Robinson has been big as well. He's getting him involved, and he's got like four straight games with a touchdown, I believe. So that's all those things combining along with the return of Kyron Williams, who's been huge as well. The Rams are hitting on all cylinders right now, and if they can get into the playoffs as a 6 or 7 seed, they're going to be dangerous for whoever they meet.
Yeah, I mean, their offense has so many weapons in it. Kyron Williams, I was really excited to see going into this game. I mean, 22 carries, 104 yards, plus 164 yards from Puka, and then another 82 from Demarcus Robinson. Like, they're
Yeah,
so effective on offense when they're all clicking like that. And I love the storyline this year. I mean, because we've talked a lot of times about, the Goff Stafford trade situation where they both seem to be playing better for their new team. Like Goff is doing great with Dan Campbell's system. We're seeing the Lions be more effective and winning more games than we're used to seeing them do. Like looking at postseason spots, and then the Rams. Matt Stafford's been a great fit there, and I'm loving the storyline where they potentially meet up in the postseason.
yeah, that would be a great matchup. And so, what needs to happen for that, the Lions need to continue to finish strong. They've got 2 games against the Vikings and a game at the Cowboys, sandwiched in the middle of that. They have to take care of business in that division and win at least one, if not both of those Vikings games. So they play what on Sunday in Minnesota. All eyes are going to be on that matchup, right? That's prove it time. Denver was a big bounce back game for Detroit, and they hit on all cylinders in a statement win. Lions Vikings in Minnesota on Sunday. That's a huge. Are you the same old Lions, or are you ready to do what you have to do to win this division? Because if they lose out and the Vikings win out, the Vikings can still steal that division. It needs to be a lose out, win out scenario with 3 games left. That's going to be really interesting.
And we know about those divisional games. I mean, at sometimes late in the season, even if the other team doesn't have a playoff shot, they're just in it to ruin it. Like they just want to wreck the season. Like the Bears have come in trying to wreck the Packers season multiple years in the past decade. I mean, we've seen it happen where they're just like, oh, if we're not going to the postseason, neither are you, honey.
Yeah,
But I mean, I'm concerned a little bit. So I have been a big fan of the Lions this season. I think the Lions should be able to win both of the games against the Vikings. I'm concerned they're going to be looking past the Vikings at the Cowboys because that
yeah,
Detroit at Dallas matchup on the 30th is going to be insane. Right now they're both 10-4. I expect that to be a great game.
absolutely. And let's say the Lions do make the playoffs. They finish with the 3 seed. They win the NFC North, and they host a playoff game for the first time since the early '90s. And the Rams get in as a 6 seed. I mean, tell me how you are feeling about that 3-6 matchup, Rams at Lions. I'm not a big guy that usually picks the Rams, but if that's a matchup in the playoffs, man, give me Stafford and the Rams in Detroit. That would be a hell of a game, though.
Yeah, I think I would have to lean with the Rams there too, because you and I have had our issues with Detroit and their turnovers on downs. You
Mm-hmm.
cannot be that risky and leave points on the board and not take the field goal 3, 4 times a game and then beat the Rams. It's just not going to happen.
Yep. And we'll see if the Rams, I mean, right now they're 8-7, a lot of positive momentum. Can they finish strong? And what happens with Seattle? Seattle is a half a game back right now. That win over the Eagles on Monday night was huge for the Seahawks. It ended their 4 game losing streak. It got them back to 500. For the Rams, their last 2 games are at the Giants, at the Niners. They should be able to win in New York against the Giants, but at the Niners, they're a really tough one in Week 18, so they could go 1-1 there. For Seattle, I think their schedule is a little bit easier here. At the Titans versus the Steelers, at the Cardinals. If the Seahawks win out and the Rams lose to the Niners, it'll be the Seahawks that get into the playoffs with a 1 game lead over the Rams.
Wow. Yeah. So
So
it's getting cozy.
yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun here towards the end, but a statement win for the Rams, big win, keeps the pressure on Seattle. Seahawks at Titans, that's going to be a tough game. We'll see if Seattle can take care of business there.
Yeah,
Um,
Seattle's been very kind of hot and cold. I
yeah,
I don't know how to feel about them week to week. Like beating the Eagles when Jalen Hurts has the flu, like that's fine. Like I'll allow that. Like I'm not gonna say anything super negative about the Eagles in that game, but we've seen the Eagles kind of falling apart a little bit.
yeah,
Um, And I mean, Seattle definitely showed up. I thought that would be a good bounce back game for the Eagles if he wasn't sick, but I mean, Seattle was not messing around.
Yeah, and Drew Lock, right, was the story coming out of that game with a clutch touchdown drive. And now here comes Geno Smith back healthy for Sunday at the Titans. So, gonna be interesting for sure. We'll see how Geno plays off that injury.
Yeah,
But
it was interesting to see Drew Lock playing well and winning, and how much passion and
yeah,
little bit of cockiness was showing up there. It was a lot of personality I wasn't expecting out of him.
I loved it. His post game interview was a lot of humility too, though, and it was like, you know, he credited all of his teammates, in every phase, and talked about how he's going to remember that play call on that touchdown pass to Jackson Smith and Jigba for the rest of his life, and how he was so grateful to get another opportunity in this league.
Yeah, when I say cockiness, I don't mean like personal, like I won this. I mean like he was fired up about the team win. Like he was winning is so important to him, and you can see it. And we've never really gotten to see that side of him because he's, hasn't done a lot of winning. So him winning an important matchup like that, especially like, against one of the best teams in the NFL this season, it was a very different side of his personality. And, it's interesting to see what he can do with that because I mean he clearly has some talent.
Yeah, you love that internal swag, that internal confidence, right? And switching gears here, we'll talk about Saturday. And remember a week ago on Saturday, Jake Browning and his comments, after he pulls off that win against the Vikings in overtime, and he's yelling into the camera, "You guys should have never fucking cut me." We love that, right? And you have to kind of have that internal swag and cockiness to be successful in this league, right?
Yeah, and it's one of those things in that matchup. Like he he took that personally. Like he wanted to play for the Vikings. Like he was excited to be there, and then they cut him. Like you come in, and I love to see not really a pissed off player, but like somebody with some passion. Give me some
Mm-hmm.
hurt feelings. Like give me Kirk Cousins. You like that? Like I love those sound bites of players just feeling their win and getting fired up. It just makes football so fun.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And so tomorrow we got two, fun games. The first one is really tough. It's like you said, one of those division rivalry games with a lot of history to it. The 8-6 Bengals at the 7-7 Steelers. And we got two teams going in the opposite direction. We got the Bengals on a 3-game winning streak with Jake Browning against the Steelers on a 3-game losing streak, and they're going with Mason Rudolph, which really fits the holiday theme, right? Hopefully, Rudolph has his nose shining bright for this game because the Steelers are going to need it.
I'm so mad at you at that. I hadn't even made that connection yet. That was slick. I like that. Yeah, I mean these teams are just they're going in the opposite directions. Like the Bengals are on a hot streak. The Steelers have been falling off. Deontay Johnson, Pittsburgh wide receiver, this week said, "Whoever wins the line of scrimmage is going to win the game." Like I don't think that's the case. I mean, the Bengals have averaged 115 rushing yards per game. Their first matchup this season, they put up only 25. So since then, they're at 115. And the Steelers are averaging 95 since that matchup when they put up 153 in that matchup. So you can see how different these teams have played since their last matchup. Um, so I think the ground game is going to be a huge deciding factor in this one, but I just think the Bengals have been just a more complete team since then. I mean, T. Higgins has been hot. I know Jamar Chase isn't playing this week. The
Yeah,
Steelers are
that's good.
down Minka Fitzpatrick and Demonte KZ. So I know we have some missing key players on both sides of the ball here. But I trust the Bengals more in this one. Mason Rudolph is just not somebody I'd want to have to get behind in this matchup, and I just can't do it.
Yeah, you kind of have to ride the hot hand here, right? And on paper, when you first look at this, Bengals at Steelers in Pittsburgh, late December, it's easy. Your gut instinct, Mike Tomlin, head coach, is to go Steelers here. But when you factor in all no, Jamar Chase is huge too, but Mason Rudolph making his first start of the season, is he going to be a spark compared to Mitch Trubisky, or is he going to be more of the same, right? And I don't expect Mason Rudolph to be to lift this team up. Jake Browning's been playing some great football. And what did Hugh Jackson say, right? The Bengals are successful when they feed the running game, when they use Joe Mixon and Chase Brown. And remember last week, the Steelers in that second half were getting pushed around by Trey Sermon and Tyler Goodson, like running backs that we haven't heard of in at all, and so if they can run on them, why can't the Bengals? So I think the Bengals are going to win that line of scrimmage matchup like you're talking about.
Yeah, and I mean, something that's been interesting to watch so far this season, Trey Hendrickson, the Bengals
Mm-hmm.
edge rusher, has been very effective at getting to the quarterback. And I mean, we've seen some issues with that Steelers O-line. I mean, Dan Moore Jr., he's going to be kind of matched up against Trey Hendrickson there. And I can see Mason Rudolph having a tough day.
Yeah, yeah, and the Steelers need to try to run the ball right. You got Najee Harris, you got Jalen Warren, take some pressure off of Mason Rudolph, but I just think it's an uphill climb. And we saw some of those videos of George Pickens and Deontay Johnson with a complete lack of effort at times, not even
Mhm.
run blocking, not chasing down the defender after an interception, stuff like that. I just think there's too much dysfunction in Pittsburgh right now. And all signs are pointing to maybe this is the first season Mike Tomlin has a losing record. All signs are saying Cincinnati here, even though it's on the road.
Yeah, I kind of picked the Steelers to lose out this season. Nothing against the coach or the situation. It just seems like it's not gonna get better for them at this point. I mean, Steelers quarterbacks have one less interception than passing touchdowns this season. I could see those
Yeah.
numbers evening out this week. I mean, 9 interceptions on the season, 10 passing touchdowns. I could see Mason throwing a a pick more than he does a passing touchdown here. And I mean, right now, if they win this game, if the Steelers pull off a win, they only have a 9% chance of making the playoffs. Like
Yeah.
they're barely fighting for anything at this point. And with the amount of dysfunction that you mentioned, I just don't see them being able to keep their hearts in it and stay in it.
Yeah, and I think the majority of the country outside of Steelers fans are rooting for the Bengals here. There, Jake Browning has come in. We thought the Bengals season was over when Joe Burrow goes down, but Jake Browning has come in, provided a spark. They're on a 3-game winning streak, and if you win this game, you get to 9-6. How crazy would it be to see a Jake Browning led Bengals in the playoffs, right? And I think we're all kind of rooting to see if the Bengals can get it done against all that adversity.
Yeah, and I mean, we have seen some great backup quarterback storylines this season.
Mhm.
I mean, Jake Browning's a great one. I mean, Joe Flacco. I just don't think Mason Rudolph is going to be the next quarterback stepping in and saving the team and leading them to the postseason. I just don't see it happening. So we're gonna agree on Cincinnati on this one.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, again, it wouldn't surprise me if the Steelers, find a way to win this, but gotta ride the hot Bengals right now, and that's
Yeah,
the better
absolutely.
story as well. How about your Bills on a 2-game winning streak, won 3 of the last 4? Joe Brady providing a spark to that offense ever since he took over play calling, and then feed James Cook, let James cook. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, what did you say last week? He's looking like his brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that game was insane for him. He's so hot right now. I'm obviously rolling with the Bills on this one. The Chargers, I mean, speaking of dysfunction, they're a hot mess right now. The Bills have been playing really well, and I mean, usually in matchups like this, we'll look back at, their past few games against each other to see if one team has the edge. I mean, the Chargers have won 4 of their past 5 games against Buffalo over the past 12 years, but this is not the Chargers team that we were used to over the past few years. So, I think the Bills offense is going to blow the Chargers out of the water here. I can see them putting up, 35, 40 points. And I think the Chargers are going to have a rough day.
What if the Bills go for 63?
Can they go for 73? Because I would love that.
That'd be pretty crazy.
Yeah, break the all-time scoring record. I mean,
Yeah,
Miami
why
was
not?
close. Miami was 2 shy. Oakland was 10 shy. I mean, I would love for Buffalo to have that.
Yeah, and the Bills come in red hot, like you mentioned. They just blew out the Cowboys. Um, and the Chargers are complete dysfunction. We'll see
Mhm.
what promoted linebacker coach, interim head coach Giff Smith, or however you say his name, if he can do anything, but advantage Bills, and they need to try to use this momentum again, like we talked about in the NFC North. The AFC East is still up for grabs. There's people, Chris Sims and others, talking about, as of right now, the Dolphins are my pick to go to the Super Bowl. Man, let's pump the brakes. I know it's December, but let's pump the brakes. The Bills could easily finish the season on a 5-game winning streak. Not only come into the playoffs hot, they can still steal the AFC East. And at week 18, they play the Dolphins. And the Dolphins don't have an easy schedule. They play the Cowboys on Sunday. So let's not just hand the division and the AFC to the Dolphins by any means. The Bills are red hot, and they might still steal this division. It's going to be fun to follow.
I mean, yeah, I mean the Dolphins' remaining schedule, the Cowboys are coming to town, then they're going to Baltimore, and then Bills at Miami. I mean, that is
Yeah.
going to be one of those division deciding games. And that's going to be a great game. That final week in January is going to have some insanely important games for this AFC, and I can't wait. But I mean, in this matchup, Joe Brady has been doing a great job as interim OC for them. I mean,
Yeah.
they've scored more than 30 points in 3 of their past 4 games. Both their run and their pass were on point last week against the Cowboys. And then you look at the Chargers defense, they've allowed the second most touchdowns and first downs. I mean, you can't do that against an offense that's firing that well. I mean, they made the Cowboys look bad, and that's impressive.
Yeah, if you remember, Joe Brady was the co-offensive coordinator, or calling the offensive plays when LSU won the national championship with Joe Burrow and that elite offense. And so he's once again showing his worth as an offensive play caller. And what have we talked about for a couple of years now? What's the biggest thing holding the Bills back from a Super Bowl run? A legit running game.
Hmm.
And talent out of that running back position, whether it's running the ball or pass catching. James Cook is providing that. If they can snowball this and continue to play well and with confidence on that side of the ball, the Bills are going to be as dangerous as anybody come playoff time. So this is a story to keep an eye on as well. Is Buffalo, and I know you love the Bills. That's your AFC team, so we need to get Andre Reed back on at some point because this could become a really good story here this season for Buffalo.
Yeah. Hey, Andre, we'll send this video over to you, but we would love to have you on to talk about this. I mean, especially
Yeah.
before that Miami game in
Yeah.
week 18, that's going to be a huge matchup. So we'll get our boy back on if he's free, because I think he's going to have some thoughts, and I would love to hear Andre's take on this.
Yeah, we need to get Andre Reed, OJ McDuffie from the Dolphins. We got to get some of these guys on. It's starting to heat up around playoff time. Once these holidays are over and the playoffs become closer and closer. But yeah, I'm very interested. We're both going to chalk up a Bills win here. It should be a pretty easy win in LA, and then all of our attention will focus on Sunday, Cowboys at Dolphins.
Yep, those
Huge
Christmas
matchup.
Eve games, guys, they're going to be so good.
Yeah, so good. And you know, we'll see what happens, but I'm not a huge Dolphins believer. I know I was wrong picking the Jets to beat the Dolphins last week, and that was a statement win, but Cowboys are for real, and the Cowboys are reeling coming off of an embarrassing loss to Buffalo. I expect the Cowboys to be on their best behavior on Sunday and look for a huge bounce back win, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be pissed off and embarrassed and ready to set things right. So guys, we'll pop back on tomorrow to make our picks for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day.
Yeah.
So we figured we'd leave this one short since we've got a long weekend of football. Don't want to wear you guys out, but shoot us some comments. Do you think the Bengals are going to pull this one off? Are you picking the Steelers as an underdog to pull this one off? We would love to hear some thoughts on that.
Yeah, and I'm now back down 7 games again, so Sunday's an important day for me to get back into this thing. Amanda's trying to run away with this.
I mean, it would be a Christmas miracle if you did get back into it, just saying.
Well,
Getting real close to the end of the season.
that's what Christmas is here for.
All right, guys. Well, we will hear, hear what Alex has to pick wrong for the rest of the week tomorrow night. But enjoy the short one. We won't talk your ears off tonight, and we'll be back tomorrow with more.
Sounds good. Appreciate all the support. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let us know what you guys think. Have a great weekend. Peace out.